What the heck are we talking about today?
Well, I've got some firmware discussions to have.
Oh,
little bits and
shit.
pieces.
I like
Not
that.
hotly prepared in the same way. You've got that cable pretty tight, just by the way.
Nice.
The one behind you. Yeah, okay, there we go.
Chaos.
Chaos, indeed. I think we should discuss a little bit of firmware. We should discuss open source.
Yeah.
We should
And
discuss...
we both went to, open source, right?
Yeah, we should discuss open source. We should mention Diode's rays, although, I'm not going to say absolutely everything on camera.
Uh-oh, this guy's talking to Diode.
Of course I'm talking to Diode. Davide and Lenny are fantastic, and I'll happily say on camera, as I have said in public, Davide and Lenny are fantastic, and that raise is exceptionally well deserved.
Can I back up here?
Okay.
So just so everybody is in the loop if we decide not to cut this. Diode raises 11.5 or 11.2 million from A16Z.
Yep.
14 million total raise. That's a big raise for the space. This is a big raise
for the space. As an example, who was the other company's valuation? I'm trying to remember precisely who. There was one of these AI circuit design, et cetera, that did raise.
Quilter is the most recent I can remember.
Yeah, they did.
I think Quilter did 10 mil.
At 30.
Oh, really? Oh, you know. Oh.
I know what Quilter did. Because not from any surprising source, but like there's resources for this online.
Gotcha.
I won't comment on all of my knowledge on everything because some of it is
public enough.
Some of it's sufficiently public and some of it's not.
Yeah,
Quilter's raise was sufficiently public
in
that there are services. The first name to come to mind is PitchBook, for example. That try to expose this.
Can get the information out. I remember. I don't know who these VCs are connecting with, but we've never announced a raise for tscircuit. It's ostensibly like kind of hidden. But although I tell lots of people, and I've probably mentioned it a couple times on the podcast, but you save it. You save the announcement sometimes. But I get emails from like PitchBook or something, and they're like threatening. They're like,
really?
Yeah, for sure. They're like, hey,
what do you mean?
About to list your profile. That's what they say. They're like, we're about to list your profile. So is there anything you want to correct? And then they just release some information anyway. I can say that it's not fully accurate. Right? But they definitely are like, there's definitely VCs sharing sources and then that goes public, which is just crazy to me. Like as a VC, that's not a feature. That's an anti-feature for sure.
No, I agree. I think that's why I won't speak to, like, you get told a lot of things in confidence. When you're part of any world, you have friends, you understand things.
Yeah.
Now, the things that end up on PitchBook or are on PitchBook, as far as I'm concerned, are in public view because you can get a trial of that product for free and look at it, right?
Absolutely.
And so Quilter, for example, they would 10 at 30. There was another in the space whose name's escaping me, but like Circuit Whiz, something like that.
Circuit Whiz.
No, anyway.
I don't know if SnapMagic.
SnapMagic.
Them.
Thank you.
Yes. They raised some money.
Yeah, they raised at a 15 valuation though.
Really? So 15 valuation.
So and they're 7 years in or something like that. They got 10, 15 staff. Yeah.
So that's a little bit low for 7 years in. There used to be IPOs 7 years in. I'm forgetting some of the companies, but that used to be like the time frame for IPO. So 50 million. Well, what am I doing judging SnapMagic? SnapMagic's great, I'm sure.
SnapMagic has vastly more revenue than either of us do. So.
That's true. SnapMagic, for those who don't know, SnapMagic runs SnapEDA, which is basically the largest catalog of footprints, and a lot of people use it. They have gone through the effort of getting footprints and even schematic symbols, and I think even 3D models for basically every component under the sun.
Yep.
So they're doing great.
Yeah, and it's a really good product. It should be out in the wild. You should pay for it.
Yeah,
like, in some sense, whether it's them or there's Ultra Librarian, a few others that offer that service.
That's right. Ultra Librarian, I think, is like owned by Cadence or something like that. Is my information wrong? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I actually don't know who it's owned by, but I would 100% believe that.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm I don't mean to be mean to anyone, but when people don't know the size of the EDA industry, it's like a big problem. I don't know if you saw this when you went out fundraising. People don't really know the size. The one piece of information we have that like everybody can kind of cling to is Altium was acquired for $7 billion by Renesas, something like that.
Yeah.
And so we all kind of can approximate things based on that acquisition.
Yeah.
But Altium is like the second biggest player in the space. So when you're talking about how big a company can get when you're building an EDA tool, it's kind of hard to know what to say. Is it 40 billion? Is it much more because there'll be more people creating circuits because there's more potential with AI?
Or if you go the other way as well, like currently it's an extremely service-oriented industry where you have just these experts, an electrical engineer in any specific domain, not straight out of uni, but they've worked a couple of years, whether it's, chips, PCBA design, it's trying to optimize manufacturing lines, it's the creative aspect of trying to architect larger systems. There are an enormous number of extremely talented people involved in this industry. And so you've got hundreds of billions of dollars a year in expenses, salary expenses, to design electronics. And as soon as you start trying to capture any of that, because guess what? A huge portion of these people are sort of reaching retirement age in the next 5 years. It's about 20%.
It's crazy.
The US are reaching retirement age. We continually want to shift this type of service-oriented industry into the Western world. It's an advanced economy kind of economic high value creation activity. So we want to be doing it here, but we don't have the expertise. Now, what does that mean? It means you need a productivity boost. You have to have it.
Yeah. And it's a little bit interesting too, because it's not like when we say we don't have the expertise, we have particular expertise. We have a very specific set of skills.
Sure.
Like at Open Sauce, which we should definitely talk about, the conference we both just attended, tons of open source electronics projects. But at Open Sauce, I was discussing with people how one of the reasons why American engineers have really high standards for EDA tools is if you're an American electrical engineer, you are probably doing pretty advanced circuit design. You're probably doing something with the government, DOD, or you're doing a really serious product like Humane or an iPhone or something like that. The kind of low-end consumer electronics, we don't design them here, So there's not as many. There's like nothing in between as much.
It's kind of funny because we don't design the PCBAs here is perhaps a better way to put it, right? Because it's kind of like gluing libraries together in software, libraries, modules, packages, however you want to call it, crates. If you exclusively work at that level, which is at really the PCBA level, is like largely like that, because you're gluing chips together that have a pretty well cemented function. Right? Those chips were largely or almost exclusively designed in the US, Japan, South Korea, Germany. I guess there's Nordic Semi, right? There's only a handful of countries that really participate in that hardcore design. And so when you get to the quote unquote hardcore PCBA level, like you're kind of gluing things together, at least to some degree. And then actually, if you're super serious, and you get into somewhere like Tesla, for example, in the early days, there weren't dedicated BMS chips, right? And so you're trying to just like, the problem's really interesting because you've got a whole bunch of like hundreds of volts of cells once you stack them up. And you want to read out the voltage across each of these now stacked cells to work out what voltage each set of, they're not a single cell, they're typically a set of parallel cells, but what voltage each of those are, temperatures, all kinds of stuff. And you need to safely, with isolation and with an enormous voltage stacking and with extreme accuracy, read that out and shift that data to something, a voltage domain that you can actually interact with a microcontroller.
So originally there weren't battery management system chips.
Of course not.
And so you had to cobble together with a bunch of chips a battery management system at Tesla.
Yes, but then when you get really serious, and this is the interesting part, you go to chip vendors and you say, hey, like we've got this problem. It's clear that there's like technology that we could collaborate on to solve this. And so you go to someone, and I won't pick who Tesla, although the early stuff has all been torn down to oblivion, so it's all pretty public in that sense. But you go to one of the big players, whether it's a Texas Instruments or an Analog, all these big name chip vendors, and you'll collaborate with them in some way or shape or form, and you'll create some IP that does this, fills this niche for you, and now you've consolidated that onto silicon. And so all of a sudden it is no longer a PCB.
It's a huge advantage for the company because getting a chip that's hard to compete with, everybody else has to cobble together a bunch of chips, and that's going to be expensive for them, but you have this one low-cost chip. And if you're operating at scale, it starts to make sense. I didn't realize how much sense it made to do custom chips. It actually makes a lot of sense at some scale. So at Open Source, I was getting estimates for like how much it costs to just, print your own chip. And people were saying, like $7,000 for 5,000 chips or something like that is your prototyping cost.
This is very new. This is novel. This is. I went by the same booth, but if you watch the cost drop over the last decade, it's plummeted.
Yeah.
Right. So this is real novelty. But yeah.
Yeah. And I think where I heard that quote from, it was somebody who is I'm forgetting the name of the company, but it was an intermediary for Global Foundry. So I don't think that's Skywater technology. Am I saying that right? Or
I don't remember, but okay. Yeah.
Anyway, there's, it depends on the nanometer level technology you're getting to. I'm sure you get more advanced, it gets harder. But for a lot, like if you're consolidating logic, it's power logic, you don't necessarily always need the low nanometer technology. Texas Instruments kind of like made this decision a long time ago to not keep going down into lower nanometer because there was so much innovation you could do on higher nanometer technology. So they kind of specialize in that now, power stuff.
Yeah, and even if you look at just regular microcontrollers, until you get to sort of application microprocessors, which is sort of a soft distinction, but it's when I think a lot of people call it such when you have caching in your memory, that type of feature, and accelerate like CPU accelerators that aren't just running instructions.
Yeah,
there's some softness in the distinction in my perception of it at least. But actually, microcontrollers, pretty much all of them are like 90 nanometers, I believe.
Oh, really?
They're huge.
Oh, wow.
Like they're massive.
So something...
like any STM32 you buy would be like 90 nanometers. Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know it was so high.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's crazy. So the processor in my iPhone or whatever is somewhere like 2 to 5 or something like that. I guess 2 is next generation. So 2 to 5 or something to that effect.
We'll average it out. It's 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5. What is it? And then, wow, most microcontrollers are like 90. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's the thing, like, you think of like these big, sexy high-end chips, like the GPU AI accelerator, CPUs, memory, DRAM, SRAM, all this type of stuff that's just been like hyper optimized because they're so generic that you stick at least, there's a Linux computer in just about every device these days.
Right.
But apart from that, all of the other interesting electronics, whether it's something like a BMS or whether it's industrial motor control or it's like some communication protocol type of thing, it's a sensor, it's robustness, it's driving some circuitry, it's some higher power stuff.
Right.
All of this type of stuff is much, much, much larger. And for that matter, for analog things where you want the precision, you need the size because all of these quantum effects that they're wrangling now at the low nanometer scales for our phones, digital electronics, all of those types of effects, not necessarily just the quantum tunneling type stuff, but that class of effects that don't affect digital systems because they're binary, obviously start really playing into the accuracy of analog systems much, much earlier up the chain. So you've got to separate things much more physically.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter. You couldn't make the analog stuff smaller anyway. Well, or not, not trivially, maybe is a better way to put it. I'm sure someone will contradict me on that, but it benefits to make it larger.
Very interesting. I wonder if this is there's a couple like transformer chip companies coming out that are like, oh yeah, we'll build like, I don't exactly understand the form factor if they're selling like IP blocks or if they're selling like a chip that goes on or something. But like NVIDIA doesn't own or even play, unless I'm wrong, in memory, right? Like a bunch of other like RAM kind of stuff.
As far as I'm aware, that's true.
Yeah. So that it's like there was like a division. There was like memory, and there's like GPU processing stuff like that, and then there was analog. And maybe people are arguing, oh, transformers are like another split, and so the startups can kind of play in there, and NVIDIA maybe with their dual focus although with how much money NVIDIA has now, the most valuable company in the world at like $4 trillion.
Wow.
Like you could do whatever you wanted. You could launch a cell phone. You know what I mean? Like,
trivially. Yeah.
They've got so much cash.
You have RGB LEDs all poking out the side. Seeing NVIDIA's stuff. 2 million drill holes in the PCBA. It's I'm skeptical, actually, not for that reason, but for another. I'm skeptical of AI or like, let's say, topologically locked AI accelerators or really hyper-specific AI accelerators today, because we're pretty confident this transformer thing is like quite a good architecture for a lot of stuff, right? But and like the further we go with it, the more it seems that like, it's actually really useful for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But also, we only came up with it a couple of years ago. We've shown that things like diffusion models or other structures broadly are also valuable, have an enormous amount of merit, and we're not quite at the like AGI spec yet.
That's right.
So if you bought a phone that had like a transformer accelerator like really explicitly in it, would it actually still be useful in a couple of years? And that depends on how flexible that processing block is to some large degree.
100%. Yeah, we don't want to take too big of a bet now on this stuff, especially like there's relatively small models keep being released that are pretty good, and so these ostensibly are not just weight improvements; they're also architecture improvements as well that maybe need to be baked into the new forms of silicon. But the turnaround of silicon isn't too bad too. It seems like if you start a company now that is working in the silicon, if you have access to it, I don't know. It seems like what's the turnaround time? I think with tiny tape out, you wait less than like 6 months.
Yeah, I think I looked at this because they were doing, I think it was like roughly quarterly. And I'm not sure what the quarterly runs roughly. And I was impressed by that, but I wasn't quite sure if you got it, if you had to, what's the lead on that? You might get it done at once a quarter, but it takes 6 months to get back. I'm pretty sure it's actually only a few weeks to a month. And you can't quote me on that because I spoke to him very briefly. But
by the time you have the chip too, like the simulation tools are so good. I do feel like probably nothing's going to go wrong to some extent too. So like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that though. We need to get a chip expert on. We got to get somebody who's pumping out chips.
We should actually.
Have you ever made a chip? Have you ever tried?
No, I haven't yet. But seeing tiny tape out, I was like, oh, that looks like, pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like $150, and then you get to say you made a chip, right? Like I made silicon.
Yeah, I don't. What if you were making a chip, a custom one? What would you make?
If I could have the knowledge to do it, I've always just wanted to see like basic YOLO on a chip. Okay. I don't know if I could do it because it might be a million times harder than I thought.
YOLO being you only look once.
You only look once. Yeah. Because what I've always wanted is a camera that is that doesn't send out any video data, but it counts the number of people in a room.
Yanni is really interested in this too.
Yeah. I think it's such a fantastic, like, it's anonymized because it doesn't send out video data. And it is ostensibly much lower power because data transmission takes up so much power with these things. Like you could even do a thing where, you can even do stuff like like Tile or Find My iPhone. It's kind of like emitting like Bluetooth signals. Like something else can pick that up. So you could get the power usage really, really low. I don't know how much a camera costs from a power perspective. That's the only thing I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah, I don't think it's inherently really high. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I assume the process is non-trivial to make that happen still. Yeah,
that's why you just got to have YOLO on a chip and you just optimize the hell out of it. Because you only have to do one thing, just count the number of people in the room, and it doesn't even have to be that accurate. When I was at SEAM, there were all these Airbnbs that were trying to find, you can't have a camera in an Airbnb, it's not allowed. So they were trying to find some kind of proxy to do it. And what they ended up doing is kind of what I'm describing, but they would have noise sensors that did not output the audio exactly. It would just output the noise level. And the cool thing about that too is like you can kind of have it outside of the spaces you're supposed to record. Like if you have it just outside the front door, it's kind of like an outdoor thing. It's not really indoor and listening.
What's more indicative as well if someone's actually causing a ruckus, because if the neighbors are going to complain, right? Like you should be allowed outside the front door.
I think that stuff's okay too. If somebody throws a party with 100 people in your Airbnb, that sucks. And that's also like, it just kind of sucks that it's legal to go check up on them, but
it's an interesting one with the privacy. But I'm all for it personally. I think that the weight should come kind of after it. And if you tank your reputation as a hirer or a renter on Airbnb, well, one, it should tank your reputation.
Right.
Airbnb should, and I think does have an insurance pool to basically just pay out to fix it.
Yeah.
And like it stinks, but you get someone in there, you fix all the stuff, and Airbnb pays for it. And then if this person ever wants access to Airbnb, then they just have to reimburse the insurance cost.
Yeah, so more the like social system or the social credit system sort of with Airbnb. I see it. I just, like, my bias is I'm always like, how can we use technology to just like fix all the problems? Because I feel like it's better if there's like 10 people in the house and the Airbnb says, okay, 3, to just like, then I can go, I'm going to send someone over before they destroy the house or something to this effect.
Yeah.
This is a guy who throws a lot of, I'm looking at the camera. This is a guy who throws a lot of Airbnb parties. He's like, no, man.
don't ruin it for no.
Don't do it.
I mean, I think the thing is though, like, is this genuinely a big problem? Like if there's 10 rather than 3, to me that seems like more of like a stickler problem of like, who cares as long as the place isn't ruined? You're actually metering the wrong thing.
Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. Like if they're all good gas and they clean up and stuff like that.
Or like I'm going on a cycling trip in Europe with some buddies soon, and it's just one of those things of like last minute. I've got a bunch of friends in Munich, having lived there. I'm anticipating a few might just decide to tack on, and we've got a pretty big like couple of rooms at a hotel.
Yeah.
If you just cram a couple of people on the floor, does it hurt anyone? Like, no, who cares? Like,
that's true.
What does it actually matter?
Here's what I'll say. The how much you should pay maybe is ideally proportional to the value created. So if somebody's providing a lot of value because you get to have a party there, maybe they should be compensated in some form. But I also understand the perspective that like if there is no damage to the house, like it's the same as if one person stayed there. Mm-hmm. You should at least have the option. I don't know, maybe this is going to be the most controversial thing I say online, that we should be recording people in Airbnbs. To my knowledge, you could not put a people counter in an Airbnb because even if it's not technically a camera, or maybe it would technically be considered a camera.
What about the Wi-Fi? Okay, so did you see this like AI reconstruction of like through-wall Wi-Fi imaging? Do you see this?
I've seen it, yeah.
So as a description for anyone who's just listening, it was like something like a TED Talk. It was just a keynote type of thing from these guys that had built a Wi-Fi intensity receiver that I think it was a phased array. So they had, maybe like an 8x8 array of little Wi-Fi antennas type of thing, plaster wall, and then a router on the other side.
Yeah.
And you could see the shadows of the people walking behind the wall from the way that the Wi-Fi would basically reflect around them and bounce off other things in the room. And they reconstructed these images with AI by just sort of, I think inside the room they had a camera, and behind the wall they had the Wi-Fi, and said, okay, model, here's your input data, and walked around for a little while, and it worked amazingly well. Now, would you just call that an 81 pixel camera if it's a 9x9?
Yeah, that's
because it's light.
Yeah. No, I mean that's an edge case for sure. I think the noise is an edge case. That's definitely an edge case. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Are we walking into a dystopia? With all this tracking? But I think it's gonna be fine. I think like everything's going to change in such a dramatic way, like with the automations and stuff like that. I'm also still surprised that Airbnb is kind of like a thing, like, and like it hasn't been consolidated somehow, because like
Airbnb is the consolidation, isn't it?
Airbnb, I mean, it is, but like...
Isn't it more amazing that VRBO can come along and try,
Is VRBO, did it come after Airbnb?
Dude, I mean, as far as I can tell, it just popped up.
It just popped up out of nowhere. I mean, I felt that way too, but I just assumed it was like a irrelevant legacy player for some reason. Just the name, VRBO, is like the worst name.
The website, the .com was open, so
they were like, oh, what's a random combination? Can we make this work? What company can we build from this?
Verbo.
No, I also felt that way. But I thought it would be like run consistently, because like, it's like that McDonald's appeal where a lot of times I don't care. I don't know, maybe the thing people love about Airbnb is how unique every place is. And maybe the only way to get unique places is when very different people run each place. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, people like hotels because they're so standard. So I just thought like a company would kind of like gobble up and kind of own Airbnb, really own a lot of Airbnbs, right? But that doesn't seem to happen.
Well,
I'm not
no,
sure
because
why.
Airbnb takes such an enormous cut, right? So if you're running a rental company, what's your probably second biggest expense, I imagine? I think it's like 30% that they're taking. I'm not sure of that, but I think.
So do they sell direct then?
Well, that's the thing. If you run your own chain, say you own a bunch of properties at Lake Tahoe, for example. You're a Lake Tahoe vacation home manager, right? And I've stayed at a few of these, right? From the same place, they're like Tahoe vacation rentals. They have the same manual in each Airbnb.
Oh.
Right. Now, they can't tell you this because otherwise they'd be breaking the Airbnb rules. But if you went directly to their website, I expect that there is a booking thing there directly and that it's probably going to be significantly cheaper. And even if it's the same price, they're keeping more of the profit. Vastly so, right? They might adopt some of the risk. I'm not sure because, as I said, I think that Airbnb provides some kind of insurance as well as part of those fees.
Yeah.
So maybe they're making a risk trade there too, but there's 100% a finder's fee that for Uber I know is I think it's 10%. I was speaking to an Uber driver the other day, and then there's a plus fees on top of it. But Uber themselves, for the sake of actually organizing that ride, will take 10%. Airbnb, somewhere in that similar realm.
So companies kind of transition off Airbnb, or at least they do their best to. It's kind of like people, influencers, like doing YouTube and getting money from YouTube ads, and then being like, if I just directly say what I'm sponsoring, that'll go a lot better.
Well, if I make it Nebula, then
Nebula?
You've heard of Nebula, right?
The genomics company?
No. Nebula is a whole bunch of the YouTube creators got together and said the algorithm keeps stuffing us, and the ad revenues only partially come to us. They created their own streaming service. How have you not come across this?
Dude, there's so many. I mean, there's Open Sauce Plus. There's everybody's making it. I started paying for I think it's called Dropout TV.
Okay.
Which is like a College Humor spinoff made into a streaming channel.
Okay.
There's so many streaming services now. But I feel like I'm kind of like, what's going on? Because the ads, when I do get ads on YouTube, they're not very good. And so I don't know what's
You don't pay for YouTube Premium?
I do pay for YouTube Premium, but it's a lot of work to sign in on every device. So sometimes I'll skip it. Maybe that's why, because I'm not signed in. But I think ads can be efficiently allocated by some kind of central player, but it still doesn't seem to be happening. Even though I hear every day about how I'm being tracked, I'm just waiting for an ad that gets me, you know?
I get ads from TI sometimes of a new buck converter's been released.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They're incredible ads. I can't believe you've never seen one.
That's pretty good.
So I'll get a 2 square millimeter package, a 6-ball BGA that can do 500 milliamp back. Come now, dropping soon at TI.
That's
literally in the little Facebook corner or whatever it is from back in the day. In fact, I think it was actually Facebook that I remember the TI one specifically. So it must have been even 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I haven't been on Facebook in that long.
That's interesting. I can't wait till I get a TI ad on TikTok or something. That'd be amazing.
Someone dancing with their...
That's a trend right now. Is factories in China? They
dance around the factory.
They dance around the factory and they show off they're like, yeah, we make diesel engine motors, and it's somebody trying to do an ad for it. I don't know how to play in that game though. That's
it's not my cup of tea. So a little bit more on open source then.
Yes.
Did you get an opportunity to walk around much as well? I know
I did. I walked around a little bit. I was mostly at my booth, but I did see some really cool projects.
Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. One that sticks out is the Makera CNC people,
the handheld
desktop CNC.
Oh, okay.
No, not the handheld. Although the handheld is cool too.
The handheld is one of my favorites. Yeah.
But they were saying they have micron accuracy on these CNCs, and
if you're not watching the video, no, if you're not watching the video right now, I pulled a bit of a face there.
But they said the bits are the thing that is kind of so I was like, oh, you can do 0402s then. And they were like, well, the bits are 200, 300 microns, and then even that's not great. And I was like, all right.
Okay. Well, specifically in the CNC machines.
I should say these CNCs, they had 5 different booths and they were doing CNC milling at one of the booths. And so that's why I brought it up. I was like, oh, what can you do with this?
Yes. So actually, Atopile has a Carvera. I think there's the actual machine's called. And it's good. You can do lots of little things with it. It's useful. It's a useful tool. Now, is it, are you going to be machining complex aluminium parts that have precise bore holes and, can you do threading on it? No, obviously you can't do all these things. The micron precision thing, I feel like this might be one of those, Amazon or what's the cheap website? The one that they sell all the Chinese.
Alibaba, AliExpress.
No, even worse. Temu. In Temu where they quote something as being like up to 60 volts and they've read the data sheet of some call it like a dual H-bridge driver chip, and the absolute maximum rating is 60 volts, not its operational, right? And so it's, I think, a stretch on the truth, because what I imagine that Carvera has or expect is micrometer resolution on their encoders, right? For the axes. So they know sort of where some things are.
So you can input to that accuracy what you're going to get out, the jostle. What's it called when the CNC goes too far and it kind of wiggles or something?
Backlash.
Backlash,
It's typically what you call it in screws. So, I mean, even thermal expansion, right?
That's true.
The coefficient of thermal expansion on these screws, their steel, is pretty high in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Depending on what the room is that day, it's going to be different. And I don't know. It's kind of delusional to micron parts off a CNC machine, which is actually what you care about, right? Because the machine itself, it's like some relevant factor. As you mentioned, there's tooling, of course, as well. There's a lot that goes into the actual CAM, the computer-aided machine, the toolpath design.
Sure.
So it's stiff enough that when you do the features at one end, you haven't undermined it like a Jenga set where you pull all the blocks out of the bottom, all sorts of things like that. But hitting 1 mic tolerances on a part of any size is pretty hard. That's not happening.
So maybe a little bit too much. It is really interesting because I didn't think anybody would sell a product with CNC milling or PCB milling. Always seems like kind of hacky. It seems very beta.
It is.
And so I was surprised to just see anybody advertising it at all. But the PCBs look pretty good. They did some chemical treatment after, and I think they had to punch the vias, which is, not great, but
we've spoken about this in an earlier episode, but the vias are actually the hardest bit. I think that milling PCBs is, personally, I think it's a bit of a waste of time. I think that there are much better ways to get PCB prototypes and make the time trade-off worth it. But I think if you're doing it for fun and you happen to have the tool, then so be it, But you can do a lot of other useful things with a Carvera. I'm not saying it's a useless tool, but if you want to make plate aluminium parts, for example, we both saw, I know, because you liked it as well, this handheld CNC router.
That's right.
It's like a Shaper Origin, if you remember that tool from a little while ago.
Yeah. That goes way back. So you hold this thing, and then it has an axis inside of it that kind of
two axes.
So basically, it's correcting for your mistakes as you move around.
It's got a little compass screen on it, and you move it, or it has a little guiding circle, and you just try to keep the circle in one another, and it'll compensate for your human inaccuracies. Basically in real time, which is just super cool. Cool little device. Their kit apparently was like $800 still, which is a very expensive kit in my opinion for something like that.
It's good relative to the price of a CNC that's going to have a huge bed, I guess.
Well, the Shaper, if I remember correctly, is only like $2,000.
Oh, really? Okay.
I could be wrong. We could look it up if you're interested.
Let's do it.
And granted, this is years old when I last looked at it. But the Shaper Origin...
Shaper.
There you go.
Let's see what these guys are
Oh
selling
wow,
for.
they've got the mounted desk-mounted CNC.
Yeah, so this is the mounted one.
It does start with a 2. It's $2,900 now, but that's a fully finished, fully integrated. It's got a screen on it. It also does absolute positioning as opposed to relative positioning.
What do you think the number one use case for something like this is? Oh, designed specifically for woodworkers.
Yeah, it's for like making furniture. So the thing is, if you have a home shop, or even if you're a professional but you're working out of a small workshop, your sheets of plywood, for example, are going to be typically? It's about 2 meters roughly. So 6 feet roughly speaking in one dimension. Now, can you realistically afford the space of fitting a full 2 meter or a full sheet bed CNC, bed mill, or a bed router in there? No, probably not. But you can get this in there.
It is cool that it's a human operated tool. So maybe someday Optimus will pick up these handheld routers and be able to do a bunch of stuff. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.